So the case that I just described, where both players run out of cards at the same time, is not anywhere in the notes that I took or the rules that I could find. So in this case, I'm just going to make up something, which is that if the players both run out of cards, it's a tie. And so there's another related rule that I can come up with right now as well, which is that if one player runs out of cards, they lose. So let's create this in our logic. So here, where we've drawn all the cards, I can put a condition that tests to see if they've drawn all the cards, if all the cards are gone. So I don't think I want to test for the specific case where I got my error, which is that this value is undefined, because it's too late at that point. So that's where we've gone through the loop and this array is already empty. So I think I want to test for the size of the array. So the last time around, I want to make sure that the error doesn't happen again, that I exit out of the loop. So specifically, I want to see if the players' hands are empty. And the way that I can do that is to check the size of the hand array, like this. So I want to check to see the condition that I'm specifically looking for is that both players have run out of cards. And in this case, then I'm going to end the loop, and I have code down here that ends the loop. This is the setting the cards equal to false. So I'm going to put that here. And then I had my other case, which is that one of the players runs out of cards, and in that case they lose. So that's just a single condition where player hand dot length the other case is computer hand and if I'm testing the length, the computer hand length and the player hand length individually, it's important that I have this condition above, because I'm testing them together and then I'm testing them individually. So if I try to do this in an else if below, it's never going to run, because once this is true, then my other else ifs don't run. That's how else ifs work. So in these cases, I also want to end the loop, and we can implement the winning and losing of the game later. So this means that the player loses. And then there's one other case here that I need to account for, which is the fact that in the war mode, there's actually 2 cards that get drawn. So it is possible that there's only 1 card left. When there's only 1 card left, it means that we can't draw 2 cards from the hand, which means that we can't run this code over again. We'll get the same error. So we need to define that case as well. And I'm also going to say that you either lose or tie. So let's add that other set of cases. The behavior is going to be the same. So for example, we're not going to play the face down card. We're just going to make a decision that says this is how the game works. So the other case is where both players have the same amount of cards left. So one case is where they both have 0 cards. I'm going to make this other case where they both have 1 card. So that's an or. It's either this entire condition, they both have 0, or this other condition where they both have 1. So I'm going to copy this. And change this one. The condition for which player loses is also a little bit more complicated. So now they're going to lose if player hand.length is 0 and computer hand.length is not 0. And the other way around, which is computer hand.length is 0 and player hand.length is not 0. And then there's the case where if the player is going to lose, then the player hand is player length, hand length is 1, and computer hand length is more than 1. So this is the same kind of condition here, where it's an or. So I'm going to copy this. So I said player hand length equal to 1 and computer hand length more than 1. Because they can't both be equal to 1, but that would be covered by this one. But we're just going to be as explicit as possible about that. And then this is an or. And that's for this one here, which needs parentheses in order to be explicit. So computer hand length equal to 1 and player hand length more than 1. Let's test this out in the browser. When I hit the submit button, I expect to see 0 errors. And so here I'm seeing all my console logs and I'm not seeing any errors, and I'm just seeing the output of every single war play here. The next thing I want to do is actually affect my output so that it reflects the state of the game, which in this specific case is that the whole game is over and the players have tied. So right now I'm outputting things inside of my output value at the end of this loop. I'm going to move this condition down so that I can make this evaluation after I set my output value when I evaluate this part of the game, and I'm giving the output for that evaluation. Now I'm going to add another thing on here inside of the condition where I can say that the game is over, because this is adding on to the very end. And then I'm going to I need a BR right here, fix my output value. So now when I run this, I should see tie at the end. Let's see it in the browser. So now when I hit submit, I expect to see tie at the end of the gray box. There it is. Now I want to add the my output value for these other cases where the player loses and where the computer loses. The next thing I have to do is be able to test the other logic that I have. The current logic that I'm testing is where each player has the same number of cards and they all match, or within the war mode of the game that we're matching the cards until they run out of cards. So the next piece of logic that I wrote was when the cards match and then one person runs out of cards. So I need a way to arrange that data inside my app. I can do that by affecting the starting values that I'm dealing with at the bottom of my script.js. So right now I have a set of arrays that are exactly the same, or rather, when we're comparing the rank, that they're the same. So what I want to be able to do is get rid of a value and then be able to have one player run out of cards before the other player. The question is, where do I want to take that value off from? So when we say pop, it means that we're referring to the end of the array, or 3, which means that I don't want to just make this array smaller or something like that. I need to take values off from the beginning of the array. So that's not the pop function. Like if I wanted to just take off values from the end of the array here, then actually I could just make this array 3 elements shorter just by writing these 3 lines, these 3 pop lines right there. But I need to take off from the beginning of the array. So that one's different. That one is actually unshift. Shift, sorry. And this is going to make the player's hand 2 cards shorter than the computer hand. So I'm affecting the deck as it's played inside of the main part of the game. When I save this, I should see the computer win. I saved and loaded my code, so now when I hit submit, then at the bottom I should see the correct logic. Just to test things out the other way, I'm going to affect the computer hand instead of the player hand. So when I save this, then it should show me that I've won. I'm going to reload the browser, and when I hit submit, I should see in the gray box that I've won. There it is. The next thing is the fact that I was able to test that specific logic in my game by changing the starting value of the hands. There's one part that I haven't actually tested, which is where one player wins the war. So I've already tested this one, where someone wins the first round. I've tested where the cards continue to be equal once it's war, but I haven't tested when it's war and then one of the players wins. So in that case, I need a deck where the player's cards match and then one of the cards doesn't match. So the quickest, easiest way for me to create this deck or deal with this deck is to just start with the pre-made one and then alter it a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create two variables out of this. So a deck variable and a deck2 variable, and then I'm going to move this stuff around. And again, what I want is for the first card to match. So I'm just going to edit this directly. And the second card is the face down card, so it doesn't matter what that value is. And then I'm going to edit the last card. And those are going to be different. So I can make this anything I want. So this first one is going to be the same rank, and then this second one doesn't matter, and then this last one is going to be different, and then we're going to get that specific condition that we have. And so I'm going to assign a player hand to this other variable that I've created. And let's see this in the browser. Now when I hit the submit button, I can see that the computer wins. It's correctly telling me that the computer won from the console log, but I'm getting a game over tie here.